Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Cole. It's Sunday afternoon, January 29th. We are now entering week 4 of Political Science 1013 on the first 8-week schedule for the spring term of 2023. All right, everybody, we have a couple things coming up this week, including the midterm exam. But before that, we have our second discussion, which has already begun as I'm speaking to you. It began this morning, Sunday the 29th, and it will go through Tuesday the 31st. Many of you will be seeing this on Monday the 30th. So the discussion will run for 72 hours in all. Please post once initially, and then respond substantively to one of your classmates at least before the end of that 72-hour period that will finish up at midnight, Tuesday the 31st. Okay, remember, when you respond, please say more than just I agree or I disagree. Respond substantively in a short paragraph or at least a couple of sentences. Now, what we're looking at is we've sent you an article to look at about the so-called Twitter files. These are documents that Elon Musk made available to several reporters once he took control of Twitter. And they are records of internal communications that took place between Twitter personnel and, in many cases, representatives of the Biden administration, the administration itself, the CDC, and other governmental entities, mostly the White House and the CDC, to the best of my knowledge. With regard to what Twitter would or would not allow in its content moderation policies with regard to the coronavirus pandemic and the vaccines. So you may have gotten vaccinated or you may be a vaccine skeptic, but it's worth taking a look at that because it's raised issues and concerns about what Twitter's practices might have been behind the scenes. Now, of course, we have to remember, we have to be careful about calling this censorship because Twitter is a private entity and has the right to exclude what it wishes from its platform. It would be different if Twitter were a government agency. Then First Amendment issues would be raised. But still, if such things are if comments on that issue being removed from Twitter, some people think that Twitter is widely used enough that it amounts to a kind of a common carrier, like the broadcast airwaves. So it raises free speech concerns even if it does not meet the legal definition of censorship. So please let me know what you think of that between now and midnight, Tuesday the 31st. Then our second exam, the midterm, is coming up Saturday the 4th, Saturday, February 4th for 24 hours. This will be over Units 3 and 4. The class notes on Unit 3 on the mass media and Unit 4 on the Constitution. And now I want to say just a few words about the readings you've been assigned and then about Unit 4, because we discussed Unit 3 last week. Unit 4 is much longer, you may have noticed, so I hope you will have gotten started on it already. Whether or not you have, I want to say a few words about Unit 4. It's a lengthy unit, so we'll take a little bit of time to discuss it. Now, for the exam, it'll be very, very similar to the first exam you've already taken. I'm only assigning 3 articles instead of 4 because one of the articles I'm assigning is so lengthy. That is by Professor Danielle Allen of Harvard University from the Atlantic Monthly about the Constitution and her attitudes toward it, and largely concerning the Constitution's treatment of slavery and race relations, which, as we know, is a very fraught, controversial topic these days. So, set aside enough time to read through that article. It's quite lengthy, by far the longest of the 3 articles I've assigned to you, so take a little bit of time to go through that. Then we have an article from the National Review website by Dan McLaughlin regarding the United States constitutional system versus that of the British. And what occasioned this was, everybody, it goes back to the fall, to October. Prime Minister Boris Johnson left office. He had gotten into some trouble. He stepped down. His party, the Conservatives, the Tories, chose a new leader, Liz Truss, but she only lasted 1 month on the job. And now the Prime Minister is Rishi Sunak. So what happened to bring about a Prime Minister only serving for a month? And what does this say about the merits of the United States versus the British constitutional system? Mr. McLaughlin likes the United States system better, so see what he has to say about that. Then finally, going back to our Unit 3 on the media, we have an article about TikTok. Many of you may have the TikTok app on your devices. It's a popular social media platform, but many governments around the country are trying to restrict or prohibit the use of TikTok because its parent company is a Chinese company. And so it's feared that the Chinese government could somehow take advantage of that for spying or intelligence gathering. Some people think it is all overblown. So take a look at the article we've assigned you from the Washington Post and see what you think of that. All right, so expect 15 items or so on those 3 articles, and the rest of it, the other 35 items, multiple choice and true false, will come from the class notes, largely from the class notes on Units 3 and 4. All right, now then, we wanted to say a few words about Unit 4 because it's a quite lengthy unit. It is very important about the Constitution. And so I hope you have gotten started on it already. Please go ahead and do so if you have not. There is a good bit of material assigned to read. There are several textbook chapters and a good bit of material there's a good bit of material in the appendix to the textbook, not just the 4 chapters that I've assigned you. If you can't read all 4 of those closely, all 4 chapters, concentrate on Chapter 2, which is really about the Constitution as a whole. Then some material is assigned to you in the back of the textbook, the appendix, the Constitution itself, the Declaration of Independence, and you'll also find 2 of the Federalist Papers, Federalist Paper number 10 and Federalist Paper number 51 by James Madison. Those are discussed in the class notes. Okay. It may take you a little time to read through these essays. They're fairly lengthy essays, and they're written in late 18th century English, so it takes sufficient time to read through those. If you have trouble, the main points are discussed in the class notes. So quite a bit of material to look at, so please get started on it if you have not done so already. Now, this is what we try to do in Unit 4. We go over 150 years of history, from the beginnings of settlement in North America, what would become the United States, until the Declaration of Independence, the Revolutionary War, and the adoption of the Constitution. We go through quite a bit of history, a period of time when initially there weren't all that many people living in the colonies. The population grew gradually. But we go through all that to spell out the situation that led to the adoption of the Constitution. Okay. Once we've done all that, we talk a little bit about the thinking behind the Constitution and the parallels between American and British constitutionalism. That's where the Federalist Papers come in, where James Madison tries to give us the political theory of the Constitution and an account of why the Constitution is the way it is. All right? Then after that, we try to go through the Constitution in some detail. There are 7 articles and 27 amendments. We don't go through every provision of the Constitution. We try to look fairly closely at the original 7 articles, and then the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments, and then the 3 amendments that were added after the Civil War amendments, so-called, the 13th, 14th, and 15th amendments. And the most important of those is the 14th, which is quite important and changes the Constitution in some important ways. We say a little bit about the 25th Amendment, because that amendment came into play during the impeachment procedures against Donald Trump and the winding down of the Trump administration over the course of the year 2020. So we do say a few words about that. Then once all that is done, we talk about the issues of civil rights, civil liberties, and federalism briefly at the end of the class notes for Unit 4. Those are all discussed in separate and discrete chapters that have been assigned to you as textbook readings to go along with the class notes for Unit 4. Once again, it's 4 chapters in all, plus some material in the appendix. If you press for time, what you should look at most closely are Chapter 2 from the textbook and the Federalist Papers in the appendix to the textbook, along with the class notes for Unit 4. So the exam will cover Units 3 and 4, plus 3 articles you've been assigned to read. It will take place all day Saturday, February 4th. The format will be the same as what we had before. in terms of true, false, and multiple choice items. Expect about 15 on the readings that were assigned, and the other 35 based largely on class notes for units 3 and 4. So that will take place all day Saturday, a mixture of mostly true, false, but also some multiple choice items. All day Saturday, February 4th for 100 points. All right then, everybody, buckle down and study hard for the exam. I hope you will take part at least twice in the discussion that will run through Tuesday. And once the exam is over on the 4th, we'll be talking to you once again about a week from now at this time, and we'll be getting started on material for exam 3. So study hard, good luck on the exam, and we'll talk to you again in about a week's time.